Okay, this particular section is not in the book, as it indicates here on the slide, so you're going to have to pay close attention to it. It's not enough to organize a paragraph itself. The paragraphs have to be organized in relation to each other. And for that, there are four options that you have. One is time order, which we've already covered, where the paragraphs are arranged in order of time sequence. One is order of space, or a spatial order, in which the paragraphs are arranged directionally from top to bottom, or vice versa, left to right, or vice versa, etc. We've already been over that. So I'll focus more on the other two. Order of importance, or what's also called emphatic order. Paragraphs are arranged for emphasis, with the least important paragraph, which of course means the least important idea in its topic sentence first, and the most important last. This is very effective because it's like watching a movie. You don't want to go to a movie and see the most important scene at the beginning and then the least important at the end. You'd probably walk out. It's the same thing with an essay. You want to move towards a kind of crescendo, to use a musical term. You want to end with the most important thing because it's the last thing that the reader is going to remember. It's what the reader is going to remember best of all. The last thing, psychologically speaking, is what we remember the most. So if it is the most important point that you're making, you should make it the last point. And then finally, logical order, or what's also known as order of complexity. The paragraphs are arranged according to relative complexity, with the least complex paragraph, meaning of course the least complex idea, first, and the most complex last. Textbooks, a lot of textbooks, are written in this fashion. For example, the textbook you're dealing with right now, we're moving from the more simple to the more complex, moving from pre-writing to body paragraphs. And as you've noticed, with each week, the presentation has gotten a little bit longer. That's because the material is a little bit more complex. Same thing with a math textbook or with a science textbook. These textbooks begin with the basic concepts and then build upon the basic concepts, moving towards the more complex concepts. So as you can see, that is also a very good way to order your paragraphs in the body. What you'll probably use more than anything else is the order of importance. So you might want to, it's not that you might want to, you want to make sure that you are thinking in those terms when you are planning on the organization of your paragraphs in relation to each other. Of course, you also need to create transitions between paragraphs, because when you're moving from one paragraph to another, you're moving from one idea to another. So each paragraph needs to have some kind of transition. Please note what I have at the beginning. Never introduce the subject or main idea of a paragraph in the paragraph that comes before it. There seems to be some teachers that teach that in high school, and that is very bad writing. It violates the unity of the paragraph if you introduce a new idea into it. Remember, you are only supposed to have in that paragraph material related to the topic sentence. If you are moving on to a new idea, you don't include it in that paragraph, you include it in the next paragraph. That's the reason why you indent and begin a new paragraph. So the transition should come at the beginning of the next paragraph. Now then, there are two primary ways to create transitions between paragraphs: repetition of keyword from the thesis and or the previous paragraphs, or more effectively, a transitional word or phrase. These are often used in conjunction with each other, and you'll see examples on the next slide. All right, here are some examples from a hypothetical essay evaluating a car called the Gator. All right, I did not come up with this. I got this from the book. It's in your book. I provide you with the thesis. The Gator, which is the subject, is one of the worst cars on the market. That's the controlling idea. So each one of these represents a topic sentence that supports the claim made in the thesis. And each one would be developed through supporting detail in a single paragraph. But the key that we want to focus on here is that we want to see how the writer moves from one topic sentence and therefore one paragraph to another. To emphasize what I was telling you earlier, which is you don't create transitions at the ends of paragraphs, you create them at the beginning of paragraphs. So the first topic sentence: when you buy a Gator, you buy physical inconvenience. Notice that the repetition of the key word from the thesis, the Gator, is one way in which the writer moves from the introduction, the thesis statement, to the first point that he or she is going to make regarding the relative badness of the Gator. You don't need necessarily a transition from the thesis to the first paragraph, but it is not essential. Well, yes, let's say it's essential to do so, to use transitions in subsequent paragraphs. So the next paragraph after that one would begin with this topic sentence: another reason the Gator is a bad buy is the cost of insurance. Again, Gator's repeated, and in this case, a transitional word has been added, another, to indicate smoothly to the reader that you're moving to another reason. The next topic sentence contains a transitional expression and the repetition of some key words. You might overlook the inconvenient size and exorbitant insurance rates of the Gator if the Gator were a strong, reliable car. But this automobile constantly needs repair. So here we have a transitional word to distinguish between the first 2 points and then the point that the writer is making in this the third body paragraph. Then moving on to the fourth topic sentence, as you can see, when you decide to sell this car, notice he doesn't use Gator this time, he just uses a pronoun. When you decide to sell this car, you face still another unpleasant surprise, the extremely low resale value. Still another, a transitional phrase, again indicating a continuation of a sequence, another reason why the Gator is one of the worst cars on the market. And then the final topic sentence, the most serious drawback, however, is the Gator's safety record. Here, however, is another transitional word. Gator is repeated as a key word. And notice the use of the word most serious drawback. What this tells us is that what the writer has chosen as far as ordering his paragraphs go is order of emphasis. We know this because the last sentence, the last topic sentence, says the most serious drawback. The most indicates that of all the problems that the Gator has, the worst, right, the one to emphasize the most is its safety record. Returning to Michelangelo's David, I'm going to use it again as an analogy for how the essay is formed. So in a nutshell, this is what we've covered over the last 2 weeks. In the same way that the physique of David is supported by the feet, which are then supporting the legs, which then support the torso, which then support the neck, which eventually supports the head. This is how the essay functions. Everything is an interconnected set of supports for the idea that is expressed in the thesis statement. So the supporting details support the topic sentence, and the topic sentence along with the supporting details together support the thesis statement. This is how you have to think about your essay. You have to think about it as a set of logical interlocking pieces. You could also use the example of a brick wall, right? All the bricks have to fit together neatly for the house to stay up. If the bricks are not put together in an orderly fashion, one level supporting another level, then the house will collapse. The same thing is true of your essays. If you do not build good support for your essays, the entire structure of the essay will collapse. We come to the end of our presentation on body paragraphs, which was covered in Chapter 3. Let me go over this and summarize the main points that we have covered. Each body paragraph usually contains one major point in the discussion promised by the thesis statement. Each major point is presented in the topic sentence of a paragraph. Each paragraph should be adequately developed with clear supporting detail. Every sentence in the paragraph should support the topic sentence. There should be an orderly, logical flow from sentence to sentence and from thought to thought. The sequence of your essay's paragraphs should be logical and effective. There should be a smooth flow from paragraph to paragraph. And finally, the body paragraphs should successfully persuade your reader that the opinion expressed in your thesis is valid.